I've got to be honest, my relationship with anime is a little complicated. I'm Charles C., and welcome to this installment of Honest Thoughts. To be honest, a part of me realizes that I'm kind of stepping into a minefield talking about this right now, because I understand that my opinion might seem a little distasteful, and I'm probably provoking the wrath of die-hard anime fans. But nevertheless, I do have some serious thoughts about this subject, and I figured this is as good a format as any to put them out into the world. Before I get started, I will say this much, though, to avoid anybody getting the wrong idea. I don't dislike anime. It's just my relationship with it has gotten a little murky over the years. If you can tolerate that, then this video shouldn't be too offensive to you. So without further ado, and at the risk of being completely mauled, let's get to it. These are my honest thoughts about anime. So, let's start with a story. A long time ago, in a high school far, far away, I was 15 years old and just about to start my freshman year. Prior to this, I had been exposed to some anime. Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, and I grew up with the original Pokemon cartoon, but I never knew what anime was until then. I just assumed that they were made in America like anything else I would have seen at the time, and I didn't know that there was anything really that special about them. But as I got older and began to research it more, I learned about some of the culture surrounding it and some of the distinctions that make anime anime. By the time I entered high school, I was completely enthralled with this stuff. You heard right. I used to be an otaku. And yes, I did go around calling myself an otaku, wearing the title proudly on my sleeve. I was that kid. Although I wasn't quite what you might think of when you hear the word otaku. Like I didn't stay inside all the time, I had a social life, I was involved with extracurricular activities, and I never dreamt or fantasized about dating a virtual woman. So I guess you can say I was kind of a mild otaku. I don't know, it depends on your definition. To me, it was just another awesome form of storytelling, something action-packed and gripping that had potential to do a lot of really cool stuff. For the next 2 years, anime became a very big part of my life. I would constantly look up new stuff, I would binge watch full series, and the more I watched, the pickier I got. More and more, I started to notice the tropes. And the more I noticed the tropes, the more they really started to get on my nerves. I began to get really critical, and I would only spend my time on animes that I thought really earned it. And yet, despite this fact, at this point, I was still perfectly capable of finding stuff I could enjoy. So anime stayed pretty much like anything else I enjoy. I was picky, but I was able to immerse myself in it enough to enjoy it. Then my junior year, I discovered something that would change all of that. One word, Nana. And it both made and broke anime for me simultaneously. This is where I realized how awesome anime had the potential to be. The show was about two 21-year-old girls who happen to share the name Nana. Both moving to Tokyo, they accidentally run into each other on a train, only to become roommates later on. The story went from there, following each of the Nana's endeavors. Nana number 1 searching for her place in the world, and Nana number 2 pursuing her dreams with her band to become famous rock stars. The art style was unique, but more importantly than that, it actually matched the tone of the show. The characters were all well introduced and even better developed. And although the show had a very dark, gritty sense to it, it still managed to sneak in plenty of humor through organic interactions with the actual characters as opposed to, pervy jokes as is the norm with most anime. In fact, for that matter, there were none of the anime tropes I had grown to dislike present in the show at all. Instead of two-dimensional characters that only exhibited one personality trait, these characters were well developed with multiple sides to their personality. The way a character should be. Everyone's designs were attractive, but nobody was over-sexualized at all. And the story was actually carried forward by, get this, good writing as opposed to plot devices. I'm looking at you, Bleach. Now my standards went from here to here, and with my expectations raised so impossibly high, I wasn't able to find anime I liked anymore. It was that simple. I had already been growing pretty tired of the tropes up to this point, but this was the tipping point for me. Now suddenly, perverted jokes delivered by two-dimensional characters that existed in a world where women fight literally by punching each other's clothes off. And yes, that is a real anime that actually exists, albeit an extreme example, was something I could no longer tolerate, no matter how much I might like the setting or some of the concepts behind some setups. What followed was what I call a genocide of my animes. I spent so much time looking for new stuff that could equal or maybe even surpass Nana, and I couldn't find anything else like it, no matter how hard I looked. Shows that I once thoroughly enjoyed, I could only tolerate now, at best. And shows that I once looked on fondly as childhood memories, namely Bleach, were now just convoluted piles of plot that I can't even watch out of nostalgia anymore. This whittled down my library so much that very few shows actually survived this genocide. And ironically, among them, Nana was hardly present. See, I've always held a belief that a good ending can change a crappy story into a showpiece, and a bad ending can change a showpiece into a tragedy. Unfortunately, Nana was one such tragedy, because Nana, in my opinion, has one of the worst endings to any story ever in any format. It's honestly that bad. I'll avoid spoilers here, but basically picture this: diversion from a lot of the strong plot points that were developed, a lot of the strong character traits that were developed, and build up for a final climax that ultimately never happens. It's anticlimactic, it's disappointing, and it's a shame because it came from something that was so good. It did so much right, and it went out on such a bad note that it almost doesn't matter. So now here I am with a very thin arsenal of captivating animes at my disposal. It's been about 3 years since I fell out of touch with the medium, and anime has become all but an obscure part of my past teenage angst. And yet, I honestly find myself missing it on a regular basis. There are points where I just want to find one good anime, something that's really captivating that does for me what Nana initially did, so I can make my peace with anime and who knows, maybe even be like a casual viewer. I'm probably never gonna be as into it ever again as I once was. And even to this day, when I go searching for anime, what I find more often than not leaves me pretty unsatisfied. And despite all of this, there is a part of me, a pretty deeply ingrained part of me, that still does enjoy and respect the medium itself. If not as an ex-otaku, then as someone who simply appreciates animation. Recently, I've begun watching Sword Art Online, the only what I'll call recent mainstream anime to keep my attention to date. And although it has its fair share of problems, trust me, it's no Nana. Something about it is keeping me invested, I have to admit. So if you haven't gotten the idea yet, my relationship with anime is rocky, and I'm probably never going to be the fan I once was again. Maybe I'm not the only one out there like that. But who knows, if Sword Art Online can end up holding my attention for long enough, maybe I can still enjoy it on some level. And if not, well, I've always got my Miyazaki films. So there you have it, my honest thoughts about anime. Now let me ask you, are you an otaku or are you more casual like myself? Do you have any love-hate relationship stories with anime? And do you know of any animes that could maybe help me get out of this rut I'm in? Let me know down in the comment section below, and if you like what you saw, hit that like button and consider subscribing for more videos like these. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Charles C. Patterson, and I'll see you next time on Operation Cleverbox.